I think we all know a couple of guys out there in the world of sports that whenever you see their name pop up in headlines, you know it's going to be a ugly story. One that makes you hang your head in shame and wonder what the heck are they doing. And today we're talking about those guys specifically. What would sports be without some frustrating athletes? These guys make millions of dollars, so we always expect the most out of them. Unfortunately, however, they don't always deliver. Whether it's their inconsistent play or their poor attitude, several NFLers have given us plenty of reasons to be frustrated with them. But which guys are the most frustrating in the league right now? Well, here are the 10 that made our list. Russell Wilson. There wasn't anything frustrating about Wilson's tenure with the Seattle Seahawks. 9 Pro Bowl appearances, 9 straight winning seasons to begin his career, and a Super Bowl 48 championship. Yeah, nothing bad about that. Wilson's time with the Seahawks was, in a word, consistent. But here we are in Chapter 2 of Wilson's career. He's now riding with the Denver Broncos following a blockbuster trade to Mile High City in the 2022 offseason. And so far, the results aren't the least bit pretty. Wilson has looked completely lost in Denver. He was supposed to end this team's half-decade-long search for a quality quarterback, but the future Hall of Famer is misfiring on so many easy throws. His deep ball, once viewed as the best in the game, has been virtually non-existent. Look, make no mistake, Wilson isn't getting any favors behind a leaky O-line in some terrible play calling from Nathaniel Hackett. But the Broncos sold the farm and then some to get Wilson from the Seahawks. He was supposed to turn this team into a contender, not make them worse than they already were. The Broncos cannot give up hope though. Wilson signed a 5-year, $245 million extension before ever playing a game for the organization. The Orange Crush faithful can only hope that he just regains that superstar-like form in 2023 and beyond. Derek Carr. On one hand, Carr has provided stability for the Las Vegas Raiders at the game's most important position. Let's not forget the horrible QB play this organization endured from 2003 to 2013. Carr has never really been a bottom-tier quarterback, but at the same time, he's never really been elite, with maybe the exception of that 2016 season. Sadly, Carr suffered a broken fibula in Week 16 that ended his dream year abruptly. Carr's numbers have been consistent enough to the point where he's been able to keep his starting job in Vegas, but they've been mired in mediocrity because of it. His stat line may look good, but he's just not the guy who can take his team on a deep postseason run. Coming off a playoff appearance in 2021, the Raiders were supposed to be even better when they traded for Carr's former college teammate Davante Adams, yet somehow the Raiders got worse. This was supposed to be the year when Carr took his career to another level. The Raiders front office did their part by bringing in Adams, but their quarterback still hasn't delivered. There is nothing more frustrating than that. Chase Claypool. Claypool displayed all the makings to be a future number 1 wideout in Pittsburgh during his rookie year. The number 49 selection of the 2020 draft recorded 62 receptions for 873 yards and 9 touchdowns, leading Pittsburgh to their first postseason appearance in 3 years. Claypool regressed a bit in 2021, posting 59 catches for 860 yards and 2 scores. The stats weren't too shabby, but it was reasonable for Steelers fans to expect a leap, and going from 9 touchdown catches to 2 was not exactly ideal. At 6'4" and 238 pounds, Claypool has the physical tools to be a star. He's got tremendous speed for a man of his size too, but for some reason the Canadian kid just hasn't been able to put it all together on a consistent basis. The Steelers eventually gave up and traded Claypool to the Chicago Bears ahead of the 2022 trade deadline for a second-round pick. Perhaps at some point the Bears fully unlock the potential of Claypool, but yeah, that hasn't happened yet. This guy has way too much talent to be putting up the lackluster stat lines that we've seen from him over the past few years. Isaiah Simmons. The Arizona Cardinals drafted the do-it-all sensation out of Clemson with the number 8 selection in 2020. Simmons was a fun prospect because he could line up anywhere on defense during his tenure in college. I mean, we're talking linebacker, defensive end, cornerback, or safety. Simmons was supposed to be an immediate impact player in year 1 with the Cardinals, but he only played 34% of the team's defensive snaps, recording 1 interception and 2 sacks on the year. Simmons became a starter in 2021, but he was constantly lit up in coverage and failed to make those game-changing plays we saw at Clemson. PFF seemed to agree, as they graded him at a terrible 51.0 on the season. With his size, speed, and freakish athleticism, Simmons should be an all-pro level talent, a heart and soul leader of the Arizona defense who keeps his team in games on a weekly basis. Simmons will flash that skill set every once in a while, but so far, we've only seen a replaceable level player in the desert. Not ideal considering how much hype surrounded him when he entered the league. Darren Waller. Waller came out of nowhere in 2019 and emerged as one of the NFL's elite tight ends, catching 90 passes for 1,145 yards and 3 touchdowns. Proving it was no fluke, Waller took his game to another level in 2020, finishing the year with 107 receptions for 1,196 yards and 9 touchdowns. Just when it looked like the Raiders had one of the NFL's best pass catchers to build around long-term, it all disappeared. Waller missed 6 games in 2021, but even when he was on the field, his production dropped noticeably. He went from 74.8 receiving yards per game in 2020 to 60.5 in 2021, and he only had 2 touchdowns on the year. Waller's 2022 season has basically been a write-off because of a nagging hamstring injury, but when he has actually played, Waller simply hasn't made all those big-time catches that made him such a special weapon some years earlier. So is Waller a 2-year wonder, or does he just need to get fully healthy to regain his status as a top-tier tight end? Only time will tell. The bottom line is, the Raiders fans have to be frustrated with a noticeable drop in production after back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Devin White. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers added more beef to a vaunted front seven by selecting the LSU linebacker 5th overall in 2019. White showed plenty of promise as a rookie, recording 2.5 sacks, 4 fumble recoveries, 1 interception, and 2 defensive touchdowns. White looked like he officially reached superstar mode in 2020 when he led the Bucs to a Super Bowl 55 championship. In the regular season, he had 9 sacks and 140 combined tackles. In the postseason, he had 2 interceptions, 2 pass defenses, a pair of fumble recoveries, and 38 combined tackles. Without White, the Bucs don't win Super Bowl 55. His game-wrecking ability changed everything on that defense, and there was good reason to think that the 2020 second-team All-Pro would reach another level in 2021. But no, White was a huge liability in coverage, his sack total decreased to 3.5, and he didn't have any interceptions or forced fumbles. He also had an embarrassing PFF grade of 36.2 on the season. That's just not gonna cut it. White is one of the game's fastest, most athletic linebackers. He is supposed to be the ideal complement to longtime Bucs starter Levante David, but White's inconsistent production, questionable coverage abilities, and knack for missing too many tackles is maddening for the rest of the defense. Tampa drafted White to be a superstar and a consistent one. They'll be happy about that one Super Bowl victory that he played an integral part in, but these last 2 years have been nothing but frustration from the former 5th overall pick. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It was hard not to be excited when the Kansas City Chiefs drafted CEH with the number 32 pick in the 2020 draft. It was a new special weapon for Patrick Mahomes and the potent Kansas City offense that had just took home a Super Bowl 54 championship. And we all know how great Andy Reid is at developing running backs. Edwards-Helaire hasn't been a complete bust. He put up 1,100 yards of offense in his rookie year and helped KC to a Super Bowl 55 appearance. He missed 7 games in 2021, but he still managed a respectable 646 yards of offense and 6 touchdowns. But even in a star-studded KC offense, CEH just can't find any consistency. Fantasy owners know this best. He'll look like an explosive Pro Bowler one week, then put up a dud the next. And it's not just his fantasy owners who have grown frustrated with the former LSU running back. It appears as though the coaching staff in KC feels very much so the same way, as he was slowly losing carries to 7th-round rookie Isaiah Pacheco before being placed on IR with an ankle injury. Chandler Jones. From 2012 to 2021, Chandler Jones was one of the game's most dominant and consistent defensive players. 7 double-digit sack seasons and a Super Bowl 49 ring kinda speaks for itself. The perennial Pro Bowler and proud member of the 100 sack club seemed like the perfect offseason addition for the Raiders, who handed Jones a 3-year deal worth $51 million in free agency. But alas, the Raiders haven't gotten their money's worth whatsoever. Hence why Jones lands on this list. Because, really, how do you go from a world-class difference maker on defense to virtually non-existent? Jones was supposed to be the perfect complement to Max Crosby, also one of the NFL's elite pass rushers. To have Jones show up in Sin City and go from hero to zero, that, folks, is the epitome of frustration. Is it too soon to wonder if Vegas will look to cut the cord after this season? Michael Thomas. It's tough to accept, but at this rate, Michael Thomas's prime years appear to be already over. He was on a Hall of Fame trajectory from 2016 to 2019. 4 straight 90-catch, 1,000-yard seasons. This was highlighted by a single-season record of 149 receptions in 2019, which led to him winning Offensive Player of the Year honors. Sadly, Thomas suffered an ankle injury in the New Orleans Saints Week 1 2020 home game against Tampa Bay. Little did the football world know at the time, but this would mark the beginning of the end for Kansas. can't guard Mike. He was limited to 7 games because of his ankle injury. He ended up missing the entire 2021 season recovering from that injury. Finally healthy to open 2022, Thomas went off for 3 touchdowns in his first 2 games to open the season. But unfortunately, Thomas suffered a season-ending toe injury in Week 3 against the Carolina Panthers. And so that means Thomas has appeared in 10 of a possible 50 games from 2020 to 2022. It's just a shame that he can't stay healthy, but even when he is on the field, Thomas only averaged 62.6 and 57 yards per game in 2020 and 2022 respectively. Far cries from the player who averaged 83.8 yards per game for his career. It just feels like Thomas can't stay healthy anymore. We expected big things from him this year, which makes his speedy decline that much more frustrating. Kyle Pitts. The Atlanta Falcons had a lot of flaws going into the 2021 NFL Draft, but they couldn't pass on the chance to take generational tight end Kyle Pitts. They took the Florida product 4th overall, giving Arthur Smith's offense a special weapon to build around long term. Pitts' 2021 stat line was very good at first glance, 68 receptions for 1,026 yards, but the guy only had 1 touchdown on the year, and that simply wasn't going to cut it for fantasy football owners. With Calvin Ridley suspended for the entire season, one would have expected Pitts to really go off in year 2. But even before he suffered a torn MCL in Week 11, Pitts wasn't much of a factor at all, totaling 28 catches for 356 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Pitts is supposed to overwhelm defenses with his combination of size, speed, and football IQ. His route running is supposed to be off the charts compared to other tight ends. He is supposed to be the NFL's ultimate red zone weapon. But it hasn't really come around yet. For a guy who was taken 4th overall in a stacked 2021 class, it's fair for Falcons fans to feel like the return has been underwhelming thus far. We've seen that talent flash before, but Pitts has to do it on a consistent basis, plain and simple. But who do you think is the most frustrating player in the NFL right now? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.